adopted him as their sort of cause celeb or icon. So, it's he's being really put on a pedestal by really the whole right, almost, in terms of a poster child for the right to bear arms. So
It's going to get
Yeah,
crazy.
and that's
My
what is
concern
gonna
is that
create
my concern is that.
unsafe.
Sorry, go ahead, Messi. Make your point.
Oh no, I was just simply saying that's gonna be sending the wrong message that it's free for all. You could just go around and kill people and claim it's self-defense. It's not good to glorify that. That's all.
Yeah.
What's
The
your concern, Tyler? Just now
My
you were
concern
saying.
is that there's some media outlets are intentionally or inadvertently causing a race war.
Fanning the flames, as they say.
Fanning the flames, yeah. Being at a minimum, they're being incredibly uncareful or inconsiderate or negligent is the word in what is happening, because this episode actually in some we could pick as an interesting starting point. Was it Blake that was the gentleman who, it was a black gentleman, cops were called, they showed up, it was all caught on video, and then they were trying to arrest him. He walks around his car, reaches into his car, and they shoot him. That the reporting of that incident, I mean, that incident is whatever you want it to be. You can decide for yourself what you think that was. But what's interesting is how the media covered that event, and the media covered that event with no trial, with no, just very in there was a lot of mainstream media response that was unjust, unfair, evidence of police white supremacy and violence against minorities, etc. And that's my point in saying that is that led to the Kenosha protests and riots. So you see what I'm saying here. An incident happened, despite whatever you feel about that incident A, which was the shooting of Blake. The media response to incident A led to incident B, which was the
well,
protests and
I would
riots. And my
I would
point,
add the media on both sides though, Tyler, because
sure, I'm not picking one
like
media or another. Yeah, exactly right.
yeah,
I'm
literally. I mean, he's on Tucker Carlson, and this guy, whatever you think of him, he's no hero. He's no Captain America,
right. No,
and
what I'm
he's
here.
being held up as this justice warrior or
Yeah,
something
I'm not.
by
That's
the
not my
far
issue.
right. So.
Yeah. My issue is incidents A. Media coverage of incidents A leads to incidents B. Incidents B, which ended up devolving, regrettably, into that whole Kyle Rittenhouse trial. The coverage of incidents B now might have led to incidents C, which is this, uh, 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 which is, by the way, geographically very close to incidents
Mhm.
A and B.
Mhm. Tyler, I think Ken has a point to make. Can you
Okay,
bring him up?
sure, of course, as Ken usually does. I love Ken's points. So, um, even especially when we don't see eye to eye, because it honestly, sincerely helps me consider things I wouldn't have considered myself, and that's the beauty of this room. So even if I debate people, and I'm not going to debate people in a heated way on this issue because it's too sensitive of a tragedy to get emotional, to get, to me this is something that should hopefully bring people together and not separate people. And
Oh, it
with,
won't. It won't. Don't worry.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
And
my only issue with everything you said, I agree with, except your reference to the mainstream media. But I think all media have distorted this story to their own point of view, especially the
yeah,
quote
but
unquote right wing
I
media.
I'm picking on mainstream media in this instance because the notable uh, lack of response to incidents C I think is interesting. And as a professional dot connector, as a professional mental jigsaw puzzle player, I'm trying to put the pieces together, and the puzzle pieces that I'm seeing that are fitting in my mind, I'm not saying they're correct, because oftentimes you force pieces together that don't belong together, and you realize later that you screwed up. I'm more than happy to. I want nothing more than for the puzzle to get seen. I understand part once in a while you'll put pieces together that don't belong together. I'm guilty of that myself all the time, and we might be doing that here. But my point is, I'm already, and when you look across people who do, my family would do jigsaw puzzles every year for Christmas. That's a big tradition. And there's a moment when you're looking across the table and you're like, ooh, that one over there, look, I think, hey, grandma, hand me that one. I think I've got that one, right? I'm at that stage with where the lack of response from particular media, and this is why I'm picking on mainstream media, because it's the mainstream media who's having a really tepid response at the moment to incident C. And it might be because they are going to they're going to be in deep doo doo with how incident C plays out in court, based
Hey,
on.
Tyler,
Yeah,
the only point I wanted to make was a
yeah,
factual one. I was not
okay,
into this issues at all because, and this is your room to do whatever you want. If I was running a tech room, I'd probably stay away from these issues.
yeah, of
Just
course.
and I have a
Normally I would.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not interested. I'll be totally. That's a great point you bring up, Ken.
Yeah.
Already, I'm not interested in the racial component of it at all. I'm not interested in racial division. I find it despicable. I think
No,
I
I
hope.
meant anything to do with politics
Yeah.
that has a
Well,
political bent
and
to it. Yeah.
I try to avoid politics generally. What I'm interested
And
in
I
is.
have a degree of political science. It's not that I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
understand.
I'm
It's
interested
just
in
that
the political manipulation is what I'm, because it's happening to tech as well, and to see it happening in culture is, to me, is interesting. I'm interested in the media part of it. That's what I'm trying to focus on. But please make whatever points you want to make. I always look forward to your points.
yeah, the only factual point I wanted to make, just because, I'm sure you probably know this because you follow some of this stuff really closely, but in the Blake shooting, a key point was that he had a knife in his car, and the cops, when he went back to his car, Blake, the cops are claiming he went for the knife, and or they saw whatever the situation. I'm not sure there would have been a shooting had there not been a knife in the car. Number one. But I want to make a point on the other side, not just to give a balance to something that the guy who was the mayor elect of New York, Eric Adams, he used to be a cop. He's an African American guy. He's from Brooklyn, like me. That's why I pay attention. He was the Brooklyn borough president.
I didn't peg you for an African American guy, but that's, go ahead.
No. I'm saying I'm from Brooklyn, from like he is. That's all I said. As you can
I'm
tell from
joking.
my accent.
I'm joking.
Okay, yeah. But he wrote a column several years ago. This is well before he ran for mayor, and he was somebody, by the way, that was, as a young man, was abused by the police. That I'm not going to get into all the details, but he was abused by the cops illegally. Okay, and yet he became a cop. Okay, and his point was, when he was a cop, and this goes directly to this issue with Blake and the knife. Either when he was a cop, if the assailant, or the whatever you want to call the criminal, or the suspect, had a knife, they didn't immediately draw their gun. They would actually try to get the knife away from the person, and or use their stick or something. And he says that what's changed is that the police now have this attitude, which you necessarily can't always blame them for. But he says the police attitude now is, I'd rather be judged by 12 jurors than carried by 6 pallbearers. They don't want to take any chances. So when he was a cop, where maybe they would have gotten involved in a fight with a guy with a knife, and maybe they would have gotten stabbed, usually not fatally, they're not even going to risk getting stabbed anymore. They're just going to shoot somebody. And I think that played into the situation with Blake. And it was interesting coming from a guy like Eric Adams, because he's been on all sides of this equation. And I just wanted to talk about it because he had written a column several years ago on that. And that's the only point I wanted to make. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, Tyler. This is Valerie. I live
Okay.
in the area.
Oh,
I'm in the Chicago area,
okay.
Wisconsin area. So all I wanted to say was the point about you're making about media, because I'm watching local media reporting on this versus what you guys are saying about, let's say, national media here in the U.S. And there's definitely a difference when you look at, and then I can send some DMs on what local news outlets are talking about. We're talking about the human component here, how there was an 8-year-old who died yesterday from injuries from the incident. I am not seeing some of these themes that are showing up in the national media, because after you mentioned that, Tyler, I took a look and I was kind of surprised. So there is a difference for what is happening locally in the Illinois, Wisconsin area versus what people are using this for their own agendas. This is Valerie,
Right.
and I'm done speaking.
Okay. Oh, so essentially the point you're making, and then Evan, I'll turn it to you, uh, is that the mainstream press have a now. I mean, we know this. I mean, this is not a shock or surprise, and I'll be the first to blame Fox News for popularizing this of making agenda journalism, like not doing traditional news, and they doing this kind of agenda journalism, and unfortunately, we're seeing it now on both sides. And is that the essence of your point, that what used to be these traditional, dependable mainstream medias have become one side and the other, and they've become tools in these political, social frictions or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, again, I'll send it to you through DM, Tyler. Like, I tend to watch Fox Local, which is very different than the business and national Fox. And so you look at their reporting,
My cousin
it
does
has
Fox Local in
nothing to,
San Diego. Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, completely different than what you're talking about with Tyler Carlson and
Well,
others,
yeah,
right?
well, I'll make
So it's,
that point even better. My cousin Jamie Chambers is as far left and liberal as you can get, and he's a news reporter on Fox Local San Diego.
so it's I so that's the point, because it's very interesting, because then when Kaz like, what are you talking about when you're saying all these things, and I'm like, then I googled and I looked at what's coming out of Washington Post, New York Times, and then but that's not what I'm seeing in the local news outlets talking about. It's the
Right,
human issue, and and the sadness and sorrow than necessarily getting into all these other things. Obviously, the gentleman had issues. There was some reporting, and I have to find the article, that I believe he's done something kind of similar in the past.
yeah.
So there's just other things happening here than trying to wrap around some of these other issues around it. So that's why I wanted to chime in today.
Yeah, he actually tried to run over his girlfriend or his wife with his car, I think just a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Thanks, Ken.
Evan, you were trying to jump in.
No, I was just going to add. I think the media is reflecting how divisive the political scene is, or maybe just amplifying that. I mean, it's
Right,
really unheard of.
right,
Two presidents, the current and the previous, both took positions on this that were just like so radical. Biden basically called him a white supremacist, and Trump basically called him a hero.
right,
So, I mean, how do you get more divided than that? I remember when
right,
Obama said the police in Cambridge acted stupidly. That was such an uproar, and that was such a sideways comment. We've come so far since then. So
right.
that's
And
all. Thanks.
every minor action by either side gets interpreted as uh, an escalation, and it it's a dangerous spiral. So, and the media's, as I think Dan Malaire said, they kind of fan the flames on that fire, and it's a really regrettable social dynamic that's playing out. I was trying to think of, yeah, just how when in the example of the incident B, where Kyle was embraced by gun advocates, that by default forced the lines on the playing field of who's going to be on whose side. And when Trump endorses somebody, it forces the other side to take the opposing view. And it goes both directions. And again, I don't live in America. I don't plan to ever live in America again. I don't plan to The policies of America don't affect me one way or the other than singularly. The only issue in America that affects me to any degree is the tax rate. So I have no skin in that game. It makes ultimately no difference to me because I never plan to live there again. So I try and look at this as a former American who understands a lot of it, but has no real strong, I don't feel like I'm on either team. I feel like I'm much more on Team Sweden and Team Thailand than on Team America politically at this point, on either side of Team America. So that's my.
Well,
Um,
Tyler, you're still obligated to pay taxes because probably that
yeah,
means you haven't
that's why I
renounced
said.
American.
I
Yep,
said exactly that. The only issue
that's right.
that affects me
But that means you could still vote in American elections. You can get
I could,
absentee, so you could still vote, right?
I
Yeah,
could, yeah.
yeah.
But being Californian, it's there's not been a vote in my lifetime where there was remotely close. Being from California,
Oh, I don't think you're that. Well, I don't know. I know what your age is. I think your dateline is incorrect. 'Cause I'm sure when you lived in California, you remember the state used to elect Republicans like Pete Wilson, and
yeah,
you
I
can
remember.
whether you want to consider
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger a Republican or
I would
not.
have
But
voted.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
have voted Schwarzenegger too. But that's the weird thing is, again, they voted for people I would have picked anyway. So even when it went against convention, so the tech news, the top story at this moment is that Apple sues the NSO Group in U.S. federal court, seeking to ban NSO Group from using Apple products and alleging the NSO Group, the makers of Pegasus, illegally targeted Apple users with surveillance tools, aka Pegasus, aka a piece
Yes.
a piece of software that gets. Oh, Data just joined us. That things just got more interesting. Data, please raise your hand. Let's get you up on stage. You're on stage. Great. So we're talking about the top news story of the day, which no doubt you've heard that Apple. Well, actually, prior to this headline, just a few days ago, Biden administration put a ban on NSO Group so that Americans can no longer do business with it, the makers of Pegasus, as you well know. And not just an NSO Group, also
And Kangaroo, the makers of
Kindaroo or
Devil Hunt
Sendaroo, or
also.
yeah, exactly, which is not totally different. I mean, they're in the same ballpark, but now, today, Apple sues NSO Group in federal court, seeking to ban it from using Apple's products. Hey, no more touching our Apple. Hey, NSO Group, you are no longer allowed to buy Apple products. So there, that'll stop you. Now you're stuck. Good luck trying to build your company when we don't allow you to buy. You are banned, sir. Good sir, you're banned from buying Apple products, and we expect that you to fully comply with that, our wishes and our demands that you stop touching our products, and we're absolutely certain that you're going to respect our demands. That and I'm sure a court's going to decide that in Apple's favor that NSO cannot use Apple products. And oh boy, are they going to comply with that? Sure, absolutely. Absolutely good. Absolutely. Why? Oh, you don't like us doing this? Oh well, Jesus, we are so sorry. Dear Tim Cook, we are so
Are
sorry.
they seeking damages?
It doesn't say
Yeah,
that they are.
it seems more like a marketing ploy. Seems like more like a marketing ploy than anything, right? Cover their tracks and it's kind of try to appease the people because as we know, I mean, even just a few weeks ago, there were six human rights defenders from Palestine that were targeted by Pegasus spyware, which was supposed to be, supposed to be patched by Apple, right? And as you know, the human rights defenders that I work with right now, um, we do have reports of Pegasus spyware on the latest operating system with Apple right now, and so this is to say that they've. It's really funny that they're suing. I believe maybe one of the reasons is again to try to appease the American people and kind of presented their operating system as being, safe and maybe say, hey, shame on you, NSO Group, for putting this out there, reselling it, or whatever it may be. But the fact of the matter is that iOS devices are still vulnerable to this day, and there are many reports around the world with the latest operating system that we are still infected with Pegasus spyware. Latest operating system, latest model of the iPhones around the world, and there's going to be some reports coming out really soon, not by me, but by some other really reputable organizations such as Amnesty and Citizen Labs. But yeah, I mean, the report is clear. Like I said, even a few weeks ago, it's not stopped. It's just I believe that they recognize that they do have a huge issue, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well,
I'm curious to see if there's any provision in the trade agreement with Israel that this is one necessary step in a mechanism that allows you to address this kind of issue. Because, like Tyler jokingly alluded, I think it's pointless to sue them because they're not going to give a shit. So I wonder if there's some sort of international agreement between the
right.
countries that
It's more of a
Apple is trying to pursue.
it's a legal issue. Yeah, it's a legal step that it's like when you classify people as terrorists or whatever. It's like that has some kind of legal meaning. It doesn't actually stop them from doing anything, but it allows other government structures to behave in new ways because well, similarly to how Biden just decided to add them to the ban list, that also has some legal weight. And I wouldn't be surprised if the government told Apple, "Hey, Apple, we need you to sue them because that will also do some other unlocks or pull some other legal levers that we need pulled." Because then,
Yeah, absolutely.
not even just so much the suing, but when the verdict comes in that it's guilty, then that unlocks and moves some other legal levers that are necessary, that are beneficial to the U.S. in this case, or Apple or whatever. I imagine more so the U.S.
It's
than
not
the
the
Apple.
first time. Looks like Facebook has done the same.
Yes,
There might be one from
that's
Microsoft also.
that's right.
It damages a company's reputation when a company specifically targets their operating systems for stuff like this. And if you remember that story about that Saudi dissident, Khashoggi, something like that, who
Sure.
was actually murdered, he was also targeted through Pegasus. So there are people who died because of this.
Well,
Yeah, usually
NSO
there's a
NSO has responded by saying thousands of lives were saved around the world thanks to NSO Group's technologies used by its customers. NSO representative said in a statement on Tuesday, quote, pedophiles and terrorists can freely operate in technological safe havens, and we provide governments the lawful tools to fight it, which is a genius jujitsu move because now if you're against Pegasus, then you're pro-pedophiles.
That's not
Check,
genius. It's just
checkmate.
they're
What I
distracting
don't
people.
like that people say though is exactly the
Oh,
oh
so
you're
you're
this
against Pegasus? You're
against
against
that.
governments using Pegasus to catch pedophiles?
That's a really interesting. It's an
That's a red
interesting
herring. It has
thing,
nothing to
right? I
do
mean,
with what they've done. They've actually
yeah,
caused people to die, and they've targeted human rights activists. So
there's
it's an
usually a
interesting
joke.
way to propose it, right? Interesting way
Yeah,
to present it to the people, right? I think it's kind
totally.
of more like a yeah, definitely this
Yeah, then it's court of
what
public opinion after
right,
that.
exactly. I mean, the U.S. government is also using Pegasus, right? And just like there's many other spywares around. I mean, we can take Magic Lantern or Green Lantern, air quotes, which is a keylogger, which FBI it was created by a third party, and the FBI purchased it, and then this is a keylogger that's can be put into your computers, and your virus scanners will not pick it up. Like they have contracts with the with companies. Let's just say Norton, for example, who says yes, they actually publicly said we now will detect. We now will detect. Magic Lantern if it's on your PC, but even with that said, and there was a point that they agreed to not have this detected on your PC. There's cooperations happening, right? So again, when I read this yesterday, I posted it as well, Tyler, in my feed. I just people were even commenting, this is just kind of a marketing ploy or trying to appease the people, or they're the good guys kind of thing. But there's the cooperations that these spyware companies or brokers have with the government is just tremendous.
Yeah.
But
So,
they can't stop doing that with the government. So there's either a couple of things. Either the U.S. government has developed their own, that means that they don't need any other external company to do this, or these guys have done damage against the U.S. government, and that's what I think. There was an article a few weeks back, Tyler, where the U.S. government banned them from doing any business, and any activities with them are presumed to be illegal until I don't know, you get a permission, and expect the result of the permission to be negative. This, I think, that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I remember that call when I was telling you, uh, I've got my kid in the car. Remember to keep the language to PG ratings. Uh, so that's when they were mentioning that, and so yeah, either the government has developed their own and they don't need them anymore, or they are trying to distance themselves from a couple of companies that are actually four companies. Two of them were Israeli, one was Russian, and one was from Singapore, that were actually causing more damage than good in the security world.
there's a couple of other related headlines to this big story, which is Apple plans to notify targets of state-sponsored spyware, like Pegasus, and commits $10 million to cyber surveillance researchers and advocates. How much of that $10 million have you gotten, Data?
Yeah, I just got a big old middle finger actually recently from Apple.
Tell them,
And
tell everyone the
yeah,
story, because I know the story, but tell everyone else.
sure, sure. I mean, there's so I submitted a lot of things to Apple, and as far as vulnerabilities go and
And,
spyware and
and not just
you know
you. There was another high-profile example recently of
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and what's happening now is our vulnerabilities are being fixed behind our back, and I even just reports, honestly, even something that I reported almost 2 years ago is still being ignored, and actually, like, specifically on our devices, a huge vulnerability. I've demoed this and people have confirmed it. I mean, really reputable people have confirmed these vulnerabilities,
Yeah, oh,
and
you show them on your YouTube account, and so I mean that's the most
100%.
the biggest proof of it all. Go to Data's profile, look at his YouTube account, and he will show you the vulnerabilities. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. You can even replicate them on your own. I have complete write-ups on GitHub and in Medium, and you
you
can actually, yeah.
listen. Data
Go ahead, Tyler.
did a clubhouse room showing, and he walked everyone in the room on the step-by-step process of doing it themselves in their own homes. Go
Yes,
ahead.
that is correct. Yes, that is correct. And they're saying literally, these are intended features, and the data that's actually being collected is it is part of the agreement. I mean, I have all the communications. At the end of this month, is another big disclosure. I've been working. I had a conference for Samsung, which I proved actually, and in my Samsung conference, which is in my YouTube as well, show you step by step how to do this. That every carrier has a back door into your phone, and I show you actually how to actually access your phone if it's locked, MDM lock, a factory reset protection lock. If you're on a Samsung, I show you step by step how to do this and how to extract data from your phone. It's tremendous amount of data. I did this at a conference. It was DamCon 2021, which is this was past week. Um, it's a tremendous amount of. But anyways, Apple's saying this is intended and everything. So, that's the way it is, Tyler. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the point is that you and others have cybersecurity. Apple's claims that they're going to give $10 million to cyber surveillance researchers. It sounds like a whole bunch of fahooey, because some cybersecurity researchers are begging Apple to fix incredibly important vulnerabilities, and they're not doing it. And these people are doing this. They don't care if they're paid or not. I mean, they do. They would be nice if they were, but don't get me wrong. I mean, there was a very high profile example recently of somebody who revealed multiple serious zero-day exploits in iOS, and Apple's been sitting on them. And they were sitting on it so long that the guy was like, "Listen, if you're not going to fix it, I'm going to go public and let everyone know that you know and you're not fixing it." That's so Apple saying, "Oh, well, we're going to start giving money to cybersecurity researchers." Oh, really? Because they're telling you where these vulnerabilities are and you're ignoring them.
Hey, Tyler,
Yeah, and that
can
seems
I?
to be the. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to inject, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well. But when the San Bernardino terrorist cell phone, uh, when the FBI asked Apple to hack the phone, and they said, no, we won't do that, an Australian company, Azimuth, did indeed hack the phone and provide the data, and then developed a business model of selling their technology to, quote, democratic governments. However, they define that, and Apple sued them, I think, in April of this year. So
Right.
this is not the first one.
Of course.
This is a
No, we keep saying that. And Data said it 10 minutes ago that, there's dozens, not dozens, but many. There's not a shortage of competitive options
Well,
on the market.
uh, yeah, look, I even just in the past, like this past week, I even posted communications. I know we were talking about Apple. I posted communications with Samsung that I had that said, "Hey, look, we have this huge issue," and it's in my Twitter feed, and specifically says, yeah, well, somebody's reported this before and we fixed the issue. Well, clearly I'm reporting this and no one's reported this before. Well, from what I would suspect, but look, the communications that I'm having with all these big manufacturers, specifically even LG, has told me we've known about this vulnerability for the past 11 years. And they said, but there's nothing we can do about it, especially since LG phones have been discontinued. But these vulnerabilities, they're at the lowest level, even the chipset level. But I just wanted to share that. I don't want to divert too
So
much from the
no
topic.
problem. On the other,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna quickly point this out that correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Apple actually give the data of Adam Schiff to the the Trump administration,
Yes, but
and that
it's a little more difficult, a little more complex than that. But yes, technically yes. Well, not just Apple, Microsoft and Google as well.
right? So when they say that Apple doesn't do that ever, they don't really mean like in a bulletproof way that they do have a way that they actually um, the security could be compromised. That's what I
That
mean.
wasn't a security compromise. That's they were forced to do it under a gag order by the U.S. government, by the Department of Justice under Bill Barr. Said, "Hey, Apple, Google, whatever, you got to hand over everyone in this batch," and they intentionally make it a batch, even though they might know that they're trying to target Adam Schiff, and which was very likely that they were. And then they found out that Adam Schiff, his role in the whole, um, investigation into RussiaGate and everything else, it's there. It gets very, very sketchy, and they didn't. Microsoft and Google and Apple all came out when the gag order expired to say, "You won't believe what the government made us do. They forced us to give over Adam Schiff's, emails and everything. It was against their will, and under gag order, they couldn't reveal it for a long time afterwards because it would have stopped the investigation. The journalists would have gone berserk and said, what is Bill Barr and the Department of Justice doing?" So, on the related point, though, that I just read about Apple plans to notify targets of state-sponsored spyware attacks, the headline from Reuters 30 minutes ago is Apple warns activists in Thailand about state-sponsored attackers may have targeted iPhones in Thailand. And it says, the question is, which state? Apple issued on Wednesday alert messages to what? That grammar makes no sense. Apple issued on Wednesday alert messages to at least 6 Thai activists and researchers who have been critical of the government. Oh shit. warning it believed their iPhones had been targeted by state-sponsored attackers, according to activists and the alerts reviewed by Reuters. This sounds, if you know how to, remember when we were talking about jigsaw puzzles? This is really, the really easy part of the puzzle along the bottom, any of the edges where they're really flat and straight. Well, this is an easy one, unfortunately, and it's a really sad one. Apple said we're going to start notifying targets of state-sponsored spyware attacks from the likes of NSO Group. And then 30 minutes ago, Reuters reports that Apple just alerted 6 Thai activists who've been critical of the government that their phones have been targeted by state-sponsored attackers. Can we guess which app they might have used to attack their iPhones? Anyone want to take a wild guess?
Instagram, TikTok.
So this is really unfortunate because being critical of the government in Thailand can have incredibly severe consequences. Apple and Thailand's digital ministry did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A political scientist at Bangkok's Thammasat University, which is like one of the prestigious legal universities, said he had received 2 emails from Apple warning it believed his iPhone and iCloud accounts had been targeted, along with a threat notification on his Apple account. Researcher and Thai activists of a legal monitoring group called iLaw said that they had received similar emails, while a rapper, a political activist, and a politician opposed to the government separately posted screenshots of the same email on their social media accounts. All are perceived as being critical of the Thai government. The messages warned if your device is compromised by a state-sponsored attacker, they may be able to remotely access your sensitive data, communications, and even the camera and microphone. Apple on Tuesday. Well, this gets really interesting because Apple's been hacked, right? I mean, and pwned, as we say. And Pegasus allows for the control of the devices, even the microphone and camera. And Apple can claim they didn't know this until, it made mainstream. Of course, they've known it for a very long time and did nothing about it. But they know about it now, and it's not that they did nothing about it. They can't do anything about it. They're unable to stop it, even though it's now publicly known. So now that it's publicly known that governments around the world are buying Pegasus from NSO Group in Israel, and one might assume, based on this article, that Thailand is a customer of NSO. It would seem to indicate, based on this article, that Apple is then, if Apple does know that this is happening, that the least they could do is notify the victims. And because if they did know and they weren't notifying the victims, then Apple's basically an accessory to these, cyber attacks. But Thailand is a particularly interesting. This is going to be huge news in Thailand. This just came out 30 minutes ago. Oh boy, this is going to cause. Oh boy. So now the Thais who
Pegasus Pegasus
have
can only go through Apple this way or other phones as well.
NSO Group, no doubt, has tools to use on non-Apple devices. Pegasus, as a tool, might only be designed for iPhones, and they might have sister, or even it's up to them. And NSO Group could bundle tools together, or they could keep them separate, or whatever. So.
Yeah, so Pegasus is available for Android. I'm the only one in the world that's actually recompiled Pegasus spyware for Androids. So if you go to my GitHub /Jonathan Data 1, you can actually see the 4 samples, and they're verified samples. I mean, researchers all around the world use them to understand Pegasus, but I've decompiled and recompiled the samples. I've reverse engineered them. I've had many talks about them. So if you're interested, yes, it's everywhere. Honestly, it's on your IoT devices. I present these as well in my live demonstrations. But iOS and Android, they're both compromised. Your car, it's compromised, and you can download it yourself. You can look at the code, the source code yourself. It's available. You can install. I encourage you to please, if you're a researcher, install these APKs to your Android device, and when you open them up, right, and you actually run the APKs, they're written in Chinese, okay? And it could be a diversion. I don't know yet. I'm not at the origin yet, but this is very interesting. These are verified samples that I have taken from VX Underground, and then they've been verified even from Virus Total. I mean, we're talking about just legitimate samples. So it's github.com/Jonathan Data One. So it's available. Pegasus is available everywhere for everyone.
Can I ask you a
This is
question?
the
So
where.
another
Wait.
question I have
Oh wait.
I
is,
have a quick question. I was wondering what kind of phone you are using, smartphone, and when you are using that phone, what kind of security measure you have on your phone when you are using it. Thank you.
Yes, I'm using an iPhone and I use Ifani. I use Ifani SIM cards to stop the let's just say the spyware from coming into my phone. Um, I was actually recommended, or I actually recommended to research who Ifani was and their products, and it's EFANI, and so I that's what I use. I mean, it truly stops a lot of bloatware that goes onto the phone and backdoors that the carriers do built to your devices. But that's what I use mainly. I use ad blockers. Because ad blockers help. This is the biggest way that this the spyware is spread is through your browser, and ad blockers. It's a must-have. It doesn't. These are the things that I recommend. I clear my cookies, my cache, every time my browser shuts down. Those are the steps that I take.
I'm
Thank you.
pretty
so
sure
my
Chris would
my
say
question
here
is,
that
if you
this is.
use the,
Oh fuck.
sorry.
No, I just wanted to say quickly. I'm pretty sure Chris would say here this is why he's got two phones.
Mhm. Sweet.
Get a burner phone.
Yeah,
Get
I didn't want to
get
go
a
that.
burner
I
phone.
didn't want to go that far. Like I want to use my phone. I want to use my phone properly. I don't want to have to carry two things. Ifani SIM card has been amazing. The story behind it and the why the CEO actually created it is amazing. I mean, it's truly something to look into. I recommend it, and this is something that we all need to understand. When you put in your SIM card, the vulnerabilities are just tremendous. It's just you're open to so much, and people don't understand that the SIM card actually has an operating system on it. The SIM card has code written on there. It's Java. The code is Java written on there, and this is one of the biggest ways that the spyware is introduced into your phone.
It's actually
Hi,
true. The
Data.
SIM
This
card
is
has
Ella.
a cryptographic coprocessor on it.
Shout out to the deep state. But yeah.
Hey, Data, I have a quick question. Depending on the carrier that you use, some of them already assign a SIM card to your individual phone. So how do you configure Ifani for those carriers?
So if you're talking about eSIMs, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you can work with the support team on that. Yeah, there's a lot of questions around the
So
eSIM,
it's not
but
something you have to figure out. They have everything there
yeah,
for you to
they
figure.
they
Okay.
have 24. I believe it's 24/7 support. Um, and their support's amazing too. So, but yeah, they do work with you with these in the eSIM in regards to eSIM. Yeah.
Good.
And
On that note.
just as a lighter joke, I remember the NSA director one year when he was at a DEF CON. He gave a talk saying, and he had this funny kind of joke about it. He said, the NSA, we're the only government agency that truly listens to the people.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
shout out to the deep state. Hell yeah.
That's
Okay,
good.
I have a question. What about using the mesh router and then having your own separate um, system going on and having separate one for guests, and then running your phone on your having two different kind of setup, and one for your phone and other one for everything else. Would that help, like the mesh router, which is like separate from your other phone router?
No. Just no. The intrusion points are going to be through your browser. So it was just one of the biggest places, right? So even whether it's Chrome or Safari, it's WebKit or Firefox, Gecko, right? It doesn't matter. The biggest intrusion point is through the browser, which again is download. The cookies that are downloaded. And is like if you're never going to use a browser again, I suppose that's the best solution for you, right? But I don't want to have anyone not use their phone as intended, right? So that's why I recommended these
What
things.
about going off the grid and wearing a tinfoil hat? Would that work?
I
Yes,
Unfortunately,
just
the
sent Tyler a
tinfoil
100%,
hat.
photo.
Evan, 100%. Yeah, that
We're
will work 100%.
going elk
Well,
hunting with Joe Rogan, that type of stuff.
I think we need to
100%.
you
bring
wear the
back carrier
tinfoil.
pigeons.
If you wear the tinfoil hat, you actually just become a big antenna. So it's actually very counterintuitive.
Thanks.
But
No,
And
then
plus,
add
it's a
add water
carrier
paradigm
though,
pigeons
right?
are drones. Yeah, carrier
Yeah.
pigeons are drones, by the way. So you
DJI.
just got to be careful.
You don't want your drone to be shot down now, so you gotta be careful about that one as well.
Okay,
Uh,
That's funny.
so we got to get into
another
the.
question. So,
Yeah,
one more
but this
question,
we're
Tyler.
not
I'll be
doing.
quick.
This is not a deep dive room on cybersecurity. We're on the first article. We're already we're 1 hour.
Hour
We've only done one story.
I
This
gotta
just
run,
happened
Tyler. So
about what?
I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Okay, Data. Thanks. So the next one is Nikkei Japan. It says they have sources that Apple has tapped TSMC to mass produce 4 nanometer 5G modem chips for the iPhone, which is those are chips normally provided by Qualcomm. And so Qualcomm, of course, is waking up to some very bad news that they're asking TSMC to provide 5G modem chips for the iPhone, because that's Qualcomm sells those chips. So the next one is Samsung says it will build a $17 billion chip factory in Texas, just outside of Austin, Texas. Well, because you can't build a 1,200 acre factory in Austin. There's no room to build such a factory. For 1,800 jobs, they expect it to be operational in the second half of 2024. Indian government submits a bill to ban cryptocurrencies and aims to create a framework that would facilitate the creation of a central bank digital currency. And if you think those are not related, you're not dealing with a full deck. Because this is exactly what happened in China, where China cracked down on cryptocurrencies and announced their own central bank digital currency. And you
so
notice,
when is this coming to the US?
right, well, this seems to be a bit of a pattern going on here, where the strong indicator that the government's about to get very serious about their own central bank digital currency is when they start cracking down on the competitive cryptocurrencies.
So
So,
is this the end of Bitcoin?
No,
um,
no, no.
no,
India's done this before. This is the second
true,
go round of it.
true.
They actually have a serious business now going on with a lot of different companies and exchanges. I was just invited by one of the, kind of wealthy philanthropists on Saturday. We did a whole taping of a series of crypto things he's going to do. So I think that it's a little bit too late there, and it's not. No, I don't think it will hold. U.S. is more concerned with stable coins than Bitcoin at the moment.
I'm going to disagree, because I had lunch with one of India's very biggest tech investors, a celebrity tech investor of India, here in Stockholm on Saturday. He told me he's in deep talks with Modi himself and the government about a gold-backed central bank digital currency on Saturday. And then this comes out today, that they're now creating a framework that would facilitate a creation of a central bank digital currency. And he went even into more detail that I've shared in our previous session. But suffice to say, it might be backed by gold in the short term, not necessarily, but very possible. And it might play nice with other countries who want to participate, as another interesting feature of this central bank digital currency, according to my high-profile tech investor friend. Which, by the way, I will now be doing my monthly events in Bangalore starting in January, in partnership with my new unnamed friend. So we'll see. They're not mutually
This
exclusive. I mean, you could have a central bank digital currency and still have cryptocurrencies, of course. So it'll be interesting to see if they take a Chinese approach and get strong against cryptocurrencies. Cheryl, are you okay? You sound like you're moaning.
no, Rajashi from India and
Yes.
blockchain knowledge wants to comment on something, but I can't.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he raised his hand. Okay,
I
get up.
just invited
Okay, Rajashi, all yours.
Thank
Raj,
you.
as his friends call him Raj. What's up, Raj?
Hi. So I just want to mention about how most of India's fintech ecosystem is a number of startups, not usually small startups. It takes a decent sized team, and collaboration with the government is very strong because there's a lot of regulatory bodies. And we have UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, which is pretty much super fast digital payments throughout the country at nearly zero fees. And so there's a good payment system already, and individuals either trading or private individuals looking for things that are not available on the clear web. So it's mostly an attempt to get people to focus on other forms of retail investment. But that's one of the reasons why India is slower to pick up on crypto than is as seen otherwise, because they have a lot of success with dealing with startups, homegrown startups that build small pieces of the ecosystem and then stitching them together with regulation. Thanks.
Okay. Next up is Twitter updates its iPhone app to avoid timelines refreshing and causing tweets to disappear after rolling out the updates on the web last week. And Chinese state media says a regulator told Tencent, which is one of the biggest tech companies in China and in Asia and the world, to submit any new apps or updates for inspections. Tencent says its apps remain functional, but now the state is saying, hey, when you go to update your apps in the Google or Apple Play stores, why don't you just go ahead and send them over to us here at the CCP? We'd like to have a little look at them before you submit them to Apple and Google to be updated in the Play Store.
That's really interesting. Why?
That's very interesting.
Deep think.
That's very, very interesting. China has required Tencent to submit any new apps or updates for inspection before they can be uploaded after a number of its apps were found to have infringed users' rights and interests. Chinese state media reported on Wednesday. China's state broadcaster CCTV cited the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology as making the requirement for the Chinese social media and gaming group to submit apps for inspection. The agency did not immediately respond to requests for comment, Cheryl. Tencent said its apps remained functional and available for download. Quote, we are continuously working to enhance user protection features within our apps and also have regular cooperation with relevant government agencies to ensure regulatory compliance. Our apps remain functional and available for download, the company said. A separate report by Chinese financial media outlet Yasai said that the government agency had also issued a notice to say that between November 24th and December 31st, that would be from today till the end of the year, all mobile apps and their updates will need to undergo a roughly 7-day long review before they can be uploaded to app stores. So it's just going to slow down all of your app updates by a week. No big deal. We're the first. Kudos again to the Chinese government for understanding these things. I mean, American government wouldn't never even occur to them that this was even possible. So you have to admire the competency, although we could debate if that competency is being used nefariously, but there's definitely competency there. Uh, so we are continuously working to. Oh, we covered that. Yeah, the Chinese regulators have over the past year mounted a wide-ranging crackdown on the country's tech companies, seeking to dismantle some of the industry's long-held practices after accusing them of monopolistic behavior and infringing user rights. Okay, next up. Internal email chain over at Google shows that 600 Google employees have signed a document opposing Google's vaccine mandate, which Google says it will firmly stand behind. Several hundred, in fact 600, Google employees have signed and circulated a manifesto opposing the widened COVID vaccine mandate, according to internal communications viewed by CNBC.
Again, it's less than 5% of the workforce for Google.
I imagine less than that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. With Google, let's figure
Point
that out.
five. That would be 0.5%.
Yep. Less
0.5%.
than
Thank you.
half a percent.
Yeah. So, well, even then, I don't know that Google would be able to be very flexible on the issue, even if they were empathetic or sympathetic in this case. They have some flexibility, but if there's like a
They would be for remote workers, but
uh-huh,
if you're gonna go to one of their Googleplex or like a Google
right,
workplaces, I don't think they will be.
right. So, but here's what's interesting. What's interesting about this is that these employees thought that this was a worthwhile endeavor because when you do, as employees, when they do something like this and then it's quickly pushed aside, then it sends a signal that Google can't be bossed around and that your signatures are not of tremendous value. So it belittles your own. It's like a boy cries wolf scenario where the more times you do this and the company doesn't do what you demand they do, it diminishes your ability to pull that trick multiple times. So, not a very well thought out effort there. Next one, Constitution DAO's organizers say that the project has run its course and will shift its Discord channel into read-only mode in 2 weeks. The attempt by crypto fans to buy a copy of the Constitution has been defined by chaos since it failed, according to Vice. And so we happen to have two friends who participated in the Constitution DAO. And one of them joined us on stage, Dr. Francine Hardaway.
Did anyone else watch it live? Because I was watching it live as well.
Well, we discussed the point that the Vice was trying to do some anti-tech. It was a totally ridiculous piece that they were doing, and even other journalists called it out as ridiculous. Which that's when you've gone a little one bridge too far as a journalist in your crusade against tech. When other
Would you
journalists are
say
calling,
totally ridiculous? I mean, there was some absurdity with the way it panned out in terms
yeah,
of
well,
people getting their money back.
there's an element of absurdity in getting 17,000 people to do anything, but the way that Vice was trying to imply many things that just didn't really add up, especially it just, I don't know why they felt the need to go after this. There's a ton of really interesting things that came out of it in terms of, and they even say this in their kind of final chapter that this article is about, where they say, we hope this will inspire other people to try similar things and continue to evolve the potential for what DAOs can do. And I think one of the coolest things that came out of this was my dear friend Jason Calacanis, who you can see in my profile because he's the person who invited me into Clubhouse. And he's a great person. It's a shame he doesn't spend more time in Clubhouse, but you can find him on Twitter and on Instagram. Simply his Twitter, his social media accounts are typically at Jason. And he did a really interesting tweet in the past 24 hours, which I think is brilliant, which is if you that he says that the frictions that were exposed by Constitution DAO are actually huge opportunities, because all of the mistakes that were made, if somebody's working on a platform for the creation of DAOs in a very elegant, simple, strong way, well, then that's a startup he wants to invest in. So if you are building a platform that would allow people to make DAOs in a very elegant, simple, powerful way, he wants to give you his money. He wants to invest in that project. And I think that's genius, because just like there are platforms for minting NFTs and selling NFTs, like OpenSea, which my goodness, OpenSea just had another really impressive fundraising. Does anyone happen to remember the numbers off the top of their heads? I'll have it in 2 seconds. OpenSea offered $10 billion valuation. Thank you very much. And what are they? They barely existed 2 years ago. So if you could do a similar thing for DAOs, where you make a very easy platform for people to make DAOs and find a way to participate in those DAOs as the platform, there's a huge, huge opportunity there. But otherwise you're going to see a bunch of initiatives that are inspired by Constitution DAO, but fall victim to many of the same pitfalls. But if somebody makes a platform, that really simplifies the whole process and strengthen it and helps people avoid the pitfalls and everything else, of course, people will use that tool. They might even give a small percentage of the funds that were just like those crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe and whatever. Those platforms take a percentage. Patreon takes a percentage. You could build a platform for organizing DAOs that takes a small percentage, and that could be huge. So the next one, Japan's top banks and 70 other companies are preparing to trial a new digital currency backed by bank deposits for large business transactions in the second half of 2022, which is only 7 months away. Top lenders and NTT, which is the big telephone company in Japan, joins test of vehicle for business transactions. A consortium of over 70 Japanese companies look to launch a digital currency in 2022. And Apple delays the release of its digital ID feature inside of your phone and your watch until early 2022. And a company called CoreStack, which offers companies AI-powered cloud governance software, raises $30 million. Indian used car marketplace called Spinny raises $285 million from Tiger Global. India-based Dream Sports, which runs online fantasy platform Dream 11, raises $840 million from Tiger Global at an $8 billion valuation. Holy shit, India is just on fire.
Tyler, what's that Dream Sport type? What are they doing actually?
They run online fantasy platform called Dream 11, and I'll pop it open to just read a little bit more. Dream Sports.
Is it okay? Go
They
ahead.
claim to have a user base of 140 million users and employees of 1,000 team members. Sports tech firm Dream Sports, which owns the online fantasy platform Dream 11, says our vision and mission is to create an entrepreneur-led virtuous cycle of investment, innovation, and wealth creation for all stakeholders in the sports ecosystem, from fans to athletes, teams to leagues. Our investors have deep expertise, blah, blah, blah. It houses brands such as sports content and commerce platform FanCode, its corporate venture and M&A arm called Dream Capital, sports experience platform Dream Set Go, game publisher Dream Game Studio, and
Okay, so there's a lot of buzzwords, and the reason I asked it because I know something about this area,
Yep.
and I mean, there's already a lot of stuff in fantasy sports. There's
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's that uses real money in the U.S. That would be called daily fantasy sports with two big players. One would be FanDuel, the other one would be DraftKings. And then there's fantasy sports in Europe and all of that. And some of it is where you can bet real money and win real money, and other ones like Yahoo has fantasy sports. It's just like done. I mean, there's like a service they kind of provide for people who want to do their own fantasy sports leagues, just between friends and stuff like that. Um, and so everyone's getting into this, and because everybody sees like dollars. But I mean, I just point out there's a company called Genius Sports. It's also in there's so many service providers now. They just reported the other day, and the stock was down really sharply. I mean, there's way too much money in my view, chasing after all of this because everybody just, it kind of has like a .com feeling. If you kind of remember that anything with a .com was able to raise money at one point, in back in those days. Now anything that's affiliated with sports betting or fantasy sports or has sports in their name is kind of like now the new .com. And people ascribe all sorts of, valuations to things. And I just want to make that point. People should be really leery and really careful because there's a lot of money chasing after this stuff. I should even point out that a major player, a very well known company, Wynn Resorts, which is the part of the Wynn casino companies here in Las Vegas, they just pulled back a lot from their own role in sports betting because there's too much money chasing after it in terms of just trying to get customers, and they didn't leave the business. They just said basically we're no longer going to spend promo dollars like we were spending chasing after it. If it comes to us, it comes to us, but they're not, so that's why I was curious what this was, and everything you read doesn't really tell me very much other than they've managed to hit every single buzzword that they could hit. But and I'm done speaking.
Okay. Next one is how Belgian police infiltrated messaging service Sky ECC in February and March, gaining access to 1 billion messages and facilitating arrests and drug seizures. Criminals thought encrypted Sky ECC cell phones were impregnable, but cops tapped 1 billion messages, yielding arrests and drug seizures. The gangsters plotting to assassinate a judge thought they were leaving nothing to chance, but cops hundreds of miles away were onto them thanks to a stakeout with a modern twist, using supposedly impregnable encrypted phones. The Serbian hitmen discussed earlier this year how wind direction and distance could affect the sniper's bullet and planned their getaway. Unbeknownst to them, their messages were also flashing up on a computer screens of a secret police team in Belgium that had hacked into the messenger service called Sky ECC. The Belgians warned police in Serbia, who whisked the judge to safety. The infiltration was a signature success in efforts by authorities across the world to counter encrypted communications, a powerful new tool for criminal gangs to hide their identities and hatch plans in secret. Here we have the Wall Street Journal educating, for lack of a better word, people about encryption, but they're doing it in a way that makes it seem like it's the dark web or it's this tool of the devil, that encryption is this bad thing. Special handsets with a secure chat app and most other functions disabled have helped criminals flood Europe with cocaine, turning it into a rival for the U.S. for the world's biggest market, according to U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency. But when authorities got inside the networks, they gained an unobstructed view of the gangs at work and the chance to thwart them. For 3 weeks in February and March, Belgian officials say they eavesdropped on criminals using Sky to coordinate massive drug shipments, plan hits, and exchange photos of cash, cocaine, and corpses. It's their Achilles heel, said Kevin Daniels, the DEA's deputy chief for Europe. Oftentimes, we are 2 or 3 steps behind. They are looking for the latest technological advantage over us, but we're finding a way to catch up. Law enforcement officials say infiltrating Sky was the largest of several recent strikes against encrypted platforms. Authorities gathered roughly 1 billion messages from tens of thousands of Sky-enabled devices worldwide, which could feed investigators for years. Belgium has detained more than 500 suspects and seized 88 metric tons of cocaine. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. 88 tons? Dear God.
Reminds me of the J.P. Morgan bust with 1.3 billion dollars of cocaine. But yeah.
It says it exceeds last year's record bust. It says Sky was monstrous, says Sky Albrecht, who served as the DEA's attaché in Belgium. It was so global and such a volume of messages. Okay. Sky, through its website and network of resellers, offered Apple, Google, and BlackBerry handsets loaded with sophisticated encryption software, and with their GPS cameras and microphones disabled, messages were automatically deleted after 48 hours if the contact wasn't reachable, and devices could be wiped remotely. Sky billed the platform as impenetrable and offered a prize of up to $5 million to anyone who could hack it. Okay, so there's a related cybersecurity one that who was it that just said this in? Valerie, was it?
Yeah,
Who?
that was me, Tyler.
Okay, thank you. So this one is really interesting. Just to add additional context, that threat actors find and compromise exposed services in 24 hours. And what it means, it says researchers set up 320 honeypots to see how quickly bad actors or threat actors would target exposed cloud services, and report 80% of them were compromised in under 24 hours. So they set up 320 cloud services, and they made them intentionally attractive, and 80% of those 320 cloud services had been compromised in less than 24 hours. Malicious actors are constantly scanning the internet for exposed services that could be exploited to access internal networks or perform other malicious activity. To track what software and services are targeted by threat actors, researchers created publicly accessible honeypots. Honeypots are servers configured to appear as if they were running various software as lures to monitor threat actors' tactics. 42 researchers set up 320 honeypots and found that 80% of the honeypots were compromised in the first 24 hours.
I don't know, Tyler, how this is like really news. This has been going on since like the 2000s.
Yes, it's not news to people who do cybersecurity at all. It's huge news to 95% of the people in the room.
You know, when I think there was one piece of news, I don't know, 2007 or something, about an exposed Windows XP machine on the internet will be compromised in 30 minutes. And, you know, this continues. I guess the trend
Yep.
continues to happen today.
Yep. So, what is the next one? Oh, that's Dream 11. Apple warns Thai activists. We covered that. The next one is Denmark-based podcasting and audio tech startup called Podimo raises $78 million. Spotify debuts a partnership with Netflix, collecting official Netflix soundtracks and playlists and podcasts for top Netflix content like Squid Game, and make pages inside of Spotify, just like artist pages in Spotify. You'll now have a Squid Game page in Spotify, and it will have a whole lot of the music from the soundtracks and playlists and podcasts about Squid Game on the Squid Game page. But they're doing this not just for Squid Game, but for ostensibly a large number of Netflix titles, which is kind of genius. And then the next thought is, why not take that just one step further and allow all of that Spotify playlists and podcasts to be embedded in Netflix, so that when you select Squid Game on Netflix, there could be some little menu icon to click on that would enable the option to listen to all of that content without leaving Netflix. So that could be a really cool collaboration. And Slate did an interesting piece about Facebook engineer Badad Esfabad, who was detained in Iran in 2020, where his family's from, or where he might have been born. And he's of Persian descent anyways. But his parents were living there, and he went home to visit his parents. He makes $1 million a year as an engineer for Facebook. And then when he got back to Iran, the authorities apprehended him, arrested him, put him in jail, beat him, interrogated him 6 hours a day, brutalized him, tortured him, and he got out because he said that he would cooperate. The reason that he believes he was arrested was because there were friends of his who were working on tools that are engineers, computer engineers, who were working on tools that the state didn't want them to work on. And they said to him, if you can get some information from them, we'll let you go. And he said, okay, fine, I'll go talk to them. And they let him go. And of course, he didn't talk to them. And but one other interesting detail came out of this story, which the Facebook engineer Badad says that these that the people who apprehended him and tortured him were incredibly scared of Facebook and anything to do with Facebook. They wouldn't even open his work laptop for fear that Facebook would get some information from that, and etc. So, those are the big headlines of the day. Oh, one other one.
Tyler, you want to do the AI chatbot, Kore.ai?
Sure.
Remember you wanted me to pin
Yes.
Jean-Francois?
Yeah. Is Jean-Francois still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Are you familiar with where is it, Cheryl? What was it called?
It's Kiro, Corey.
Kore.ai.
Corey.ai.
Cora, Kora?
Kore.ai.
Yeah, that's it. What was it? They just had another fundraising?
Yeah, another fundraising of 73 million with they did a Series A fundraising of 50 million, and then they had to extend it with because they have now Nvidia that will invest millions in the company. And if you want to, did you find news? Oh yeah, this is the news. Yeah,
I got it right here. It says they're making AI assistants with low code tools, or it helps companies make AI assistants with low code tools. So it's getting easier to make AI assistants, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nvidia joins as an investor, which is quite interesting. Just curious if you had any.
Great use case for enterprises who need to automate customer service and internal employee communications, HR stuff and all kinds of use cases.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing. I think they're good. They're an independent player getting their share of the game. Like with Nvidia, you can imagine with the resources that they will have, it will be like getting better. And the good thing is, what I noticed of this platform compared to the other competitors is that exactly the speech to text and text to speech features seems to be back from the competition. And with this partnership, they will get stronger. They are already probably in the top 5. Like if you compare to Watson, Microsoft Azure, Dialogflow, and AWS, Amazon Lex. So each of those platforms have their advantage. Like if you go with Dialogflow, the voice speech to text, text to speech is really amazing. And then if you go with IBM Watson, you will have like the intelligence of it. And Core is focusing on the ease of use. Now with other big players are trying to simplify the code aspect of the platform, and it's normal as we've seen in the past, like Shopify, what they have done with their platform to simplify the coding of a big portal that were used to be made in PHP, ASP, and HTML. So it's really amazing. And and as a company owner, like if you look at the bank or retailer or call center, what is your main focus in this is to offer a voice or chat customer service as close as the human experience as possible. So this is the point I think that they will have a challenge in the future because like, and it's the every player in the game is it's the hard thing to achieve is to get this conversation as a human to human conversation like more likely and eventually become indistinguishable from a human to human conversation. But now, seriously, with this company, with the Nvidia deal, they will make the system work on Riva, that is an Nvidia GPU system, and it increased the accuracy and understanding of the queries. So it's really really amazing, and I think it's getting better for all those kind of conversational AI that I that I use those kind of systems.
And then it's interesting because the next article is UK-based mental health provider raises $53 million for real-life therapy session data to fuel AI. Well, it's a UK-based mental health provider, raises $53 million based on an AI-powered text-based therapy, mental health therapy. So it's an AI therapist, mental
Yeah,
therapist.
that's amazing, and this is a really good place to go. Like this is something that we want to do, like with Leah, like on the positive side of like just helping people on a friends relationship and helping them like with those kind of conversation and giving positive and those kind of data that they have. It could be like really amazing.
Particularly with the pandemic, I've heard you can't get a therapist. I mean, literally, it's trouble getting a human being to take new clients. So this could be ways to do screening and intake and questionnaires and kind of expand what a therapist can do one on one. So really
And
interesting.
and if we
But
remember
I
back in the
think
days, the first
a lot of
therapist, the AI chatbot therapist was Elisa, and this was meant to be. It was the goal of it.
Yeah, like
I think they're
having
allowing
human speak to
therapists to
AIs.
do Zoom calls and stuff like that now.
What did you say?
I think these days they're allowing therapists to do like Zoom calls, and they have their own little compliant video chat applications that allow the therapists to have calls just to ease up the in person visits. But having an AI do this, I don't know what I feel about that. I think it's kind of scary.
Tyler, on
Yep.
that note, in 45 minutes time, there will be a today's startup session with Katerina. She is also doing a mental health setup. So anyone interested, please join us in 45 minutes time after the tech news around the world.
You want to start it in 30 minutes? Because I have to go to like a dinner party.
Oh, sure. Katerina, can you do it in 30 minutes? She's on stage actually. Okay, I'll work it out. Should be able to. Thank you.
Okay, next up is the tweets. Like,
Tyler, could I
yes,
jump in to just highlight something about that piece?
sure.
It really is about a startup that will be using more AI and the language taken from a lot of face-to-face online as such therapy sessions to actually create responses that will be AI generated so that a conversation between can be had about a psychological situation. And what am I trying to say? I mean, there's quite a lot of information in that article that was talked about. And I think we have to remember that it's about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is much more controllable, might not be the right word, but it's the one I'll use just now, and not necessarily
Manualize.
face to face, manual, and not necessarily face to face. I think there's a lot to be wary of, or certainly cognizant about, because the face to face is so important when you're talking about psychological therapy. But of course, a manualized form of CBT is perfectly acceptable for medium or lower um, mental health issues, if you
Thanks.
see what I
It's
mean.
really interesting what you're saying.
Not sure I approve of it though, but
So the next one is JT on stage?
Yes, he is.
Okay. JT, you have
JT.
this one about Facebook or Meta unveils XLS speech processing tool. The latest extended reality including anyway, XLS speech processing tool inside the metaverse. And the next one's from Gareth, that a company called Mythical raises 150 million for playable NFT game platform. And Jeff G sends in this one from CNN. They say they've done some analysis. China's disappearing ships, the latest headache for the global supply chain. Ships in Chinese waters are disappearing from global trackers, creating yet another headache for the global supply chain.
Yeah, China seems to be playing some funny business with GPS, or I guess their competitive satellite tracking system as well is up and coming. So it is kind of a
Yeah, it's called AIS,
concern.
the Automatic Identification System, which all ships are supposed to use. And ships in Chinese waters are disappearing from industry tracking systems, creating yet another headache for the global supply chain. China's growing isolation from the rest of the world, along with a deepening mistrust of foreign influence, may be to blame. Analysts say they started noticing the drop-off in shipping traffic toward the end of October as China prepared to enact legislation governing data privacy. Usually, shipping data companies are able to track ships worldwide because they are fitted with an automatic identification system, or an AIS transceiver. This system allows ships to send information such as position, speed, and course, and name to stations that are based alongside coastlines using high-frequency radio. If a ship is out of range of those stations, the information can be exchanged via satellite. But that's not happening in the world's second largest economy of China, a critical player in the global trade. In the past 3 weeks, the number of vessels sending signals from China has plunged by 90%, according to data from global shipping data provider Vessels Value. Quote, we are currently seeing an industry-wide reduction in terrestrial AIS signals in China.
They tell him maybe they're missing tennis stars on one of those ships, and that's
Oh,
why
Jesus
nobody can
Christ.
find her. I'm just saying. I mean, this is what they do. I mean,
Asked about the issue, China's Ministry for Foreign Affairs declined to comment. The State Council Information Office, which acts as a press office of the country's cabinet, did not immediately respond to a request for comment about why shipping providers were losing access to data. But analysts think they found the culprit: China's Personal Information Protection Law, which took effect November 1. It requires companies that process data to receive approval from the Chinese government before they can let personal information leave Chinese soil. A rule that reflects the fear in Beijing that such data could end up in the hands of foreign governments. The law doesn't mention shipping data, but Chinese data providers might be withholding information as a precaution, according to somebody you never heard of, AIS network team leader at Marine Traffic, a major ship trafficking or tracking information provider. Quote, whenever you have a new law, we have a time period where everyone needs to check out if things are okay. Other industry experts have more clues of the law's influence. And some said that colleagues in China told her that some AIS transponders were removed from stations based along Chinese coastlines at the start of the month, at the instruction of national security authorities. The only systems allowed to remain needed to be installed by qualified parties. Not all of the data is gone. Satellites can still be used to capture signals from ships. But Toros said that when a ship is close to shore, the information collected in space is not as good as what can be gathered on the ground. We need terrestrial stations in order to have a better picture, a more high-profile, high-quality picture. With Christmas approaching and lots of information from mainland China, home to 6 of the world's 10 busiest container ports, could create more problems for an already troubled global shipping industry. supply chains have been under strain this year as badly congested ports struggle to keep up with a rapidly rebounding demand for goods.
Tyler, all these other issues with China, I think they're all going to convalesce.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, because Biden was already considering boycotting the Olympics over the Uyghurs, and now I think this tennis star thing is going to be a really big thing. I think this is a very seems to have a lot more salience than some other issues, as it should, by the way. And if we have a kind of a Western boycott of the Beijing Olympics, it's going to even create more friction between the West and China, and and you have all the situations with Taiwan, and it's I think all of it's going to come together. I mean, because
yeah.
particularly because I think people, yeah.
Well, America. I mean, America wants tension with China. America wants to decouple from China, and that's why you can see who's. If you watch closely at the relationship between the two, you'll notice when there's requests to meet, it's China asking to meet with the U.S. and trying to calm things down and bring things back to how they were 5 years ago when China was making financial growth, incredible growth, and they want to keep the status quo. And America's like, no, we're not, we're done with you, and we're going to tell all of our allies to be done with you too. And you're going to go back to where you were 40 years ago when the whole country was starving to death because we don't like you. We don't like your ethics and your morals. I mean, that's America's, to put it incredibly bluntly, that's the subtext to what's going on. Is we thought we were going to help you. We brought you into the World Trade Organization. We brought you into the UN. We chose you over Taiwan as Taiwan was the representative in the UN because those are two different governments, and Taiwan was recognized, and China comes in, and now Taiwan can't be recognized, and we chose the CCP over the Taiwanese government, and now we realize we fucked up. We should have gone with Taiwan. Taiwan's independent. Taiwan's a democracy. We support Taiwan. They're a better partner. We screwed up. We chose the CCP, and because the CCP is clearly not interested in being friends with the West, and they're really aggressive with all of their neighbors. They're surrounded by people protesting them and dying in those protests from Tibet to Hong Kong to Taiwan, and the Uyghurs to the north. You got the Uyghurs to the west, Taiwan and to the Taiwan to the east, the Uyghurs to the west, the Tibetans to the west, the Hong Kongers to the south, the Mongolians to the north,
And
and
they even have disputes with with Vietnam and the Philippines
the whole the whole South China Sea, every
yeah.
all Asian countries, period. So it's just a bad acting person that they have other than Iran and Russia. It looks like everyone wants to take the ball and go home and restart the game without China involved. And China's saying, whoa, 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 hang on, hang on, hang on, not so fast. We were making a lot of money. We were doing just fine. Let's talk this out. And the world's like, no, there's nothing to talk out. We don't want to talk it out. You're a bully, and we're done with you. And that's the question: is who's going to go along with that and who's not? I've been spelling this out. I've been saying America's going to force this issue and ask everyone whose side do you want to be on. And we're busy campaigning in the backgrounds, letting everyone know, whispering in everyone's ears. Most of all, the countries that are on the fence, like Thailand, and all those meetings are happening. And we're figuring out whose side they're going to be on, and then we're gonna once we know whose side everyone's going to be on, and once we're okay with that, we're gonna make okay. Hey, it's a new order, and then what happens is they recognize Taiwan, and all shit hits the fan. So anyway, the and this is part of it. I mean, the Chinese new law where China's due to this law, it's causing for much stronger decoupling, essentially. So they're kind of playing into it, and it's a really multi-dimensional chess game happening on both sides. But I don't blame China for doing this law. China believes that the U.S. and the rest of the world are using Chinese data against itself, and they're not wrong. I mean, countries are doing intelligence gathering and collecting of all kinds, and so now China feels like it's taking proactive steps to protect all of the data, and they're doing the whole data sovereignty thing, including with its ships, including everything. So, well, that means non-Chinese companies aren't going to participate in China anymore, because to do anything in 2021, any kind of business that any two entities do involves data. Well, China's new rules say, they're going to have this data sovereignty thing, but China's not alone. A lot of countries are doing this. The problem is China has its own separate sort of internet. The rest of the world kind of shares and isn't as, honestly, isn't as aware as China is about the power of data. That's why I said you got to kind of respect their competency when it comes to these technical issues. And it's kind of like our friend who was on stage earlier, Data, where his knowledge forces him to take rather interesting measures to protect himself. China's kind of doing the same thing on a national scale. But that means you're hindered. You're kind of a little more withdrawn, a little less, open and connected in some sense. Anyway. So the next one is from JT. Learn how to build a metaverse in Horizon Worlds with new tutorials. Like Oculus just put out some tutorials for how to build inside of their metaverse, JT?
If he's not there, I can speak
Okay.
to it. I'm sorry, I'm on my treadmill, so it's a little noisy. But they put out a gigantic series of short and sweet videos that hold your hand. And I'm here to say that after many years in virtual worlds, I'm scripting now. So yay.
Nice. And that's a big key to unlocking the metaverse, is making it easy for everyone to participate. And Messi shared this one, that in 2021, the most common password is still 123456. However, we read a headline last week that Japan, the number one password in Japan is password, which is the third most common password in the rest of the world. So that's your ABCs of hacking right there. You go ahead and that's welcome to the first day of kindergarten of hacking. The most common password is still 123456. So the next one from Evan, that France asks search engines and app stores to remove a particular app, which is a simple e-commerce app called Wish, a very incredibly popular e-commerce app. Several French ministers have issued a common statement announcing that they have asked the main search engines and mobile app stores operating in France to remove Wish, to hide Wish's website and mobile app altogether. Wish is a popular e-commerce platform that mostly references products from China-based merchants. Oh, ding. It doesn't hold inventory, as products are shipped directly from merchants to customers. Last year, the French administration in charge of consumer rights and fraud started investigating Wish. At the time, the Direction General of Consumer Fraud suspected that it was a bit too easy to mislead consumers and sell counterfeit goods on Wish, such as sneakers and perfumes with images incorrectly showing the logos of famous brands. The French administration then ordered 140 different goods on Wish. Most of them were imported products. This time, they wanted to find out whether those products were safe or not. 95% of toys that they acquired on the platform didn't comply with European regulation. 45% of them were deemed dangerous. When it comes to electronics goods, 95% of them also shouldn't be available in Europe, and 90% of them were dangerous in one way or another. And even cheap costume jewelry sold on the platform presented a risk. 62% of those that they ordered are considered as dangerous. Again, these metrics are based on a very small sample of 140 products. When Wish is notified that it's selling dangerous goods, those products are removed from the marketplace within 24 hours as expected. And yet, in most cases, those products remain available under different names, and sometimes even from the same seller. Very clever. Oh, we took it down
It's interesting. I
and
mean,
renamed it.
Wish Wish is one of the most popular apps in the U.S. on e-commerce on the App Store. It's weird. We don't do any of those kind of things. We don't like
Well,
run the
what's it?
tests that France would run and
Well,
protect,
what's
buyers.
interesting
It's
is
strange.
France has a lot of these brands that they are very valuable to them, and so if there's Chinese counterfeiters in France, that's been a very long battle for a very long time. And so when they're selling counterfeits on Wish, that got the government's attention. And then once they're there, they ordered a whole bunch of stuff. And then when they received it, they test it to see if it's real or not. And in the process of testing it, they find out it's toxic and full of toxic chemicals that will shorten your life.
That's hella meta, yo.
So we read a similar headline a month ago that Shine, which is China's biggest fashion e-commerce site, which is becoming incredibly, wildly, insanely popular in the US, have the same problem, that their products are toxic, quantifiably toxic, will shorten your lifespan because they have lead and arsenic and all kinds. Just the chemicals in these products are truly unimaginably ridiculous.
It's just interesting how different countries care about their citizens in different ways. Like in the US, you can buy anything online, anywhere, never get shut down. And yet
But
in Europe, they
like,
have standards.
yeah, but Amazon in August, uh, they shut a lot of Chinese related accounts and let even make some trouble in Shenzhen because they get used to use this you can say paid review. They provide you gift cards and make
Okay.
this user and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yes.
So at least there's some effort. Amazon tried to avoid this kind of maybe false product or dangerous product. But yes, just like other platform maybe not tried as hard as this. So yeah.
Yeah, so that was a very real problem that Amazon maybe still deals with, but you can sell things on Amazon, you can resell things. And there's some people that try selling used items as unused, or just, I mean, I've purchased cologne before. When I've received it, it's like, oh, this is not the same. And so it's just that, but with different chemicals.
One other point on Shine, Tyler, when you brought this up before, I went to just kind of check it out, and I couldn't get to their privacy policy or terms of use. They appeared to have links, but they didn't. So it was just like a red flag right at the start.
Yeah, like the fashion industry has this big, especially in the sustainability sector. Everyone is very against Shine, and obviously with the Black Friday sales, also it's like for 99p. It's the same thing with Pretty Little Thing, to be fair. But yeah, this will be good for the sustainability people, but it depends on who actually wants to listen. Because if you can get something that a fashion brand makes for cents on the even hundreds of dollars, then yeah, you're gonna want to have that.
Okay. So the next one is from where'd it go? Kai. A power. Oh no, sorry, we don't need that one. The next one's from military uniforms with programmable fiber could store transmit data. Weird to see this one back in the news. This is a story from a month ago that is recirculating. And the next one's from Evan. from China. China bans celebrities from showing off wealth and extravagant pleasure on social media. No, don't be showing you're having fun. No. Saying that pop stars must comply with core socialist values.
So,
That's the
yeah,
headline.
extravagance. That's one to define, right?
Celebrities in China can no longer post unethical content, including showing off wealth or extravagant pleasure. Like swinging on a swing with your kids, or what is extravagant pleasure? Having a glass of champagne or something?
Wanting free
Popping
press.
champagne on a yacht with loads of women,
No more
possibly.
balling.
Yeah, basically.
So no more twerking and no more balling, because previously they canceled the twerking.
And no
That's funny
bling,
as well.
no bling.
In Uncle G's new anti-bling law. So no more unethical content like showing off wealth and extravagant pleasure. The move is part of the Chinese government's crackdown on the entertainment industry. Celebrities in China can no longer show off wealth or extravagant pleasure on social media. Both celebrity and fan club accounts must follow public order and good customs, adhere to correct public opinion orientation and value orientation, promote socialist core values, oh wow, and maintain a healthy style and taste. So, if you're a
Well, without the
celebrity,
sparkle and shit.
yeah, you must promote socialist core values. The announcement follows the Chinese Communist Party's crackdown on the country's growing entertainment industry. And Tuesday's notice also prohibits celebrities from spreading rumors, publishing false or private information, provoking fan groups to verbally attack each other, and encouraging fans to partake in illegal fundraising or irrational investment. On the same day, the China Association of Performing Arts barred 88 people from live streaming, including the Chinese-Canadian pop star Chris Wu, who was recently accused of sexual assault. The group said the list was designed to strengthen industry self-discipline and prevent illegal and unethical artists from re-entering the industry.
Yeah, that's the big one because like the fandom of BTS and obviously all the other K-pop artists, they the power of them is within the fan bases and how and their like kind of energy to spark up a base and let people do something and buy a ticket. Just like with the AMAs, how BTS swept I read. So it's interesting that they're cracking down on that fairly.
Yeah, they say they're creating a, a, a blacklist. Chinese authorities in recent months have moved to dampen what they call the country's chaotic celebrity fan culture. Okay, next up, thank you for that one, Evan, is from Gareth, that Epic Games buys Harmonics to add musical journeys to Fortnite. And the next one's from Jeff G, that China suspends Tencent from updating existing apps. We covered that one in the big headlines. And Apple sues Israeli spyware maker. That was the top story of the day. And Jason sent in this one from NBC News that there is a tech angle to the the Christmas parade tragedy in Wisconsin. And the connection is that the Ring doorbells were used to actually captured his the video recording of his arrest. The suspect, accused of mowing down a crowd of holiday revelers in Wisconsin, was captured in a doorbell camera before his arrest, pleading for help and telling a resident of the home he was waiting for an Uber, according to a video obtained by NBC News. So both Uber and Ring both somehow got wrapped up in this tragedy.
Yeah, I read that. It made me wonder how many like Lyft services and those types of things are subpoenaed in court cases. I don't know. Maybe Jen is on stage. she might have some
What's
knowledge about
interesting
that.
is
But
he was essentially, he admitted that he is trying to use an Uber to get away from where he is, which is a
yeah,
clever move, like using an
yeah,
Uber as a
and
getaway.
and and he said and this is something you can do. I mean, you can call Uber to schedule a pickup. So I mean, you can give them a fake name or whatever, but as long as you had a card. But in an essence, he has a getaway ride wherever he needs it to be. So I'm just interested. I was curious when I saw that how many times has an Uber been used in a fleeing some type of crime?
Isn't that why Ubers stay at the location to see if you're going to get your key to go into the location or like something like that? I don't know about anywhere else, but I know where I'm at, Ubers usually stay at the location until you either enter the premises or you find your key to the premises.
So the facts in this situation, by the way, he didn't have the Uber at the crime scene. So the Uber didn't go to the crime scene. The
Right.
guy
Correct.
the guy got away. He actually was in somebody else's house who was like a good Samaritan who thought this guy was just like a homeless guy or something, and he was gonna. So he actually this good Samaritan who was like some 24-year-old kid let him in the house, and
He came out of the house
then I think
onto the
then he
porch.
came out of the house,
Yeah.
and then he tried to get back in, and he had called an Uber. There was a whole but you could there's an account that's in the other media things. So the Uber came to this young man's house
Right.
was not part of the crime. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. Yeah.
Right. But just interesting that Uber and Ring were. It just shows you how common tech is and everything. That the Ring camera caught the arrest as the guy was waiting on the porch for an Uber. So he says. Um, anyway, so that takes us to the top of the hour. Cheryl, do you want to start the next room?
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to start that as well. And I just want to make an announcement for Messi. In half an hour's time, she will also be doing the tech news around Africa. So you'll be spoiled with choices. So I'm going to start the room now. See you over there. Thank you.
Go ahead. While you go,
Katerina, come join me.
I'm just going to read the last
Yep,
headline.
thank you.
Sequoia in the audience just sent in an article from today from Reuters. It says J.P. Morgan's boss, Diamond, says he regrets China Communist Party comment. J.P. Morgan Chase chief executive Jamie Dimon said on Wednesday he regretted his remarks that the Wall Street bank, J.P. Morgan, would last longer than China's Communist Party, as banks have identified China as a major opportunity for future growth, and executives normally go to great lengths to ensure that they do not upset Chinese authorities. Quote, I regret and should not have made that comment. I was trying to emphasize the strength and longevity of our company, Diamond said in a statement issued by the bank. Speaking at a Boston College series, Diamond said, I made a joke the other day that the Communist Party is celebrating its 100th year, so is J.P. Morgan, and I made a bet that we last longer. I can't say that in China. They are probably listening anyway. JP Morgan has major ambitions in China and in August won regulatory approval from Beijing to become the first full foreign owner of securities brokerage in the country. Something tells me that might get revoked.
They are listening. Trust me, they're listening.
Can't survive in China.
Beijing sees the involvement of foreign banks as an important for China's domestic financial development. However, Western companies doing business in China still need to tread carefully. Quote, Diamond's apology shows the degree of deference foreign businesses have to show to the Chinese government in order to remain in its good graces and maintain access to the country's markets, says a professor at Cornell University. Asked about Diamond's comments in a press conference on Wednesday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijiang told Bloomberg, quote, is it really necessary to cite such remarks that are merely to attract people's attention?
It's wow.
But since he ever made this kind of uh, comment, so anytime in the future, this can be a weapon used by the CCP government to treat me anyway. Like
Okay, so we're now officially at the top of the hour, and I've got a dinner party to get to. So I will join you tomorrow and look forward to that. And thank you to everybody for another fun
Happy
information headline
Thanksgiving,
point.
Happy
Americans.
Thanksgiving.
Tech
Happy
news. Oh, happy
Have a
Thanksgiving.
good
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving.
Happy
everybody! Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Sounds like an early turkey, Tyler.
No,
Enjoy.
no turkeys in Sweden.